Hello, everybody. This is Jonathan with the Balloon Guild, and I also have Mr. Fudge with the Balloon Guild, also Jonathan on here. And we are with the Mahoneys today. Amanda Mahoney, and she brought Dave with her too. So we they are the guest designers for this month, and they have submitted some amazing recipes. They've given us SOPs, and then to be very honest with you, they've even given us more that I just haven't had time to process yet. But the way they've given them to us has been pretty easy to process. So I plan on getting a handful more done over the next few days. So I'm super excited that they said yes to join. They not only are they our guest designers, but they've been members of the Balloon Guild since the beginning, just about. So I'm super pumped to have them on, and I'm really excited to ask them all kind of questions and see what kind of deep, dark secrets we can get out of them. So welcome, David and Amanda.
Thank you.
Right. So I always like to start off with this question, like what got you into balloons?
The short answer, I worked for a company and I knew a young lady that did balloons. And at the time, my son was just born, my oldest now. He was, he was like 6 months old, and she just had such a passion for balloons. And my logic at the time was it was just about bouquets. If I could sell half of the Metroplex in Dallas, if I could sell one and if I could sell half a percent to the Metroplex, I'd make millions of dollars. And so we took a workshop one weekend, came home. I had a new baby. We had about 200 bucks in the bank, and I quit my job that Monday, and we've been doing balloons ever since. Now, fast forward 7 years or so, 6 years. Um, Amanda was riding her bike. She lived in the neighborhood near us, riding her bike by, and I just said, "Hey, would you like to do some data entry?" Because I suck at bookkeeping. I hate bookkeeping. I don't like chasing invoices.
You
And
weren't in
she,
like a white van, were you? Like, hey, want some
I
data?
do own lots of white vans. I do own lots of white vans, but no, like she's like, I said, "Would you want to do some data entry?" And that's how she got involved. Um, it's kind of a twisted story. So I about a year and a half later, I got hospitalized and I almost died. And at that point, Amanda was just doing data entry, chasing invoices, silly things like that. And she took over everything about the company. She made sure she didn't even tie balloons at that time, I don't think.
I think I just basically had to teach myself, like, okay, this can't be that hard.
Yeah.
Let me figure this out.
Go ahead, smash my ego now. It can't be that hard. Dave does it. And so she took all the care of all the jobs, all the customers. I was in the hospital for about a week, 7 days actually, before they released me. I was on heavy medications and couldn't work for about 30 days. She took care of everything. As soon as I was back on my feet, I made her a partner. She was a partner about 12 years.
I don't
I don't know. It gets all blurry. And then we 6 years ago got married.
It's been 6 years already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with two kids.
Two
Yeah.
kids. Yep.
When I met you guys, you weren't married. So,
No.
Yep.
Amanda, what kind of surprise was that to be offered a partnership, to be on that side of the equation?
I think that when I was that at that point, I was like, okay. I mean, like, sure. I mean, I've always been like a go-getter kind of person, want to do things. And so to be, early in my life to be able to like own something and have something, it was kind of, it was cool. It made what I was doing, like at the time I was going to school and, you know, college. I was paying my way through college. So it was taking me, I took the 10-year route. And then I finally just one day decided, you know what, I'm doing what I love. I kind of own part of this business. So why keep going to school and doing, like, I hated school back then. So, so as a young person in life, owning something and having this, it also made me feel more vested in it and stuff like that. And it's not just a job.
Sure. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you next was how did it change your mindset before and after? And I'm assuming before you had a pretty good mindset anyways.
Right.
Otherwise, you never got
Yeah.
out.
No, I was 11 years old, babysitting around the neighborhood, mowing yards with my brother and stuff like that. So I've always had a mindset of working. And so when I started working for him and, doing bookkeeping and then doing the balloon side of it, it just kind of naturally fell into it.
You weren't 11 when I hired.
No, 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 no. No,
He
no,
has
no.
used the word young several times already.
No, no, no.
Well, again, I don't think anybody, again, she's been my partner for about 18 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We've been together. We've known each other for a long time. And I think one of the things was we kind of just did life backwards,
Yeah.
because again, any partnership, you have those struggles and those stripes, trying to find fair footing, how to work. And and we went through all that as partners because again, as you grow a company, everybody knows this, there's difficult times, there are hardships, there's complicated decisions, there's a path you have to figure out. It's not clear cut, especially in this industry where we have so much influences by such incredible people. Is like, should I be deco twisting? Should I be, doing line work? It's so complicated to know what to do in this industry. And you can have so many influences. And then when you bring in a partner with those that have spouses and stuff like that, you're trying to navigate that path and it's complicated. And we've also gone through, Amanda was there when I went through my divorce. We've gone through deaths in family. We've gone through significant others. I've had a couple women I dated, which was always funny to watch them come in and go, "Oh, a business."
Mhm.
And you're like, no, 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 not yours.
Yeah. So, coming to the conclusion to make her a partner, like I did that with one of my office people, as well, and I don't regret that decision at all. Obviously you don't either. But what were the factors
Oh,
that you
I didn't say I didn't. I didn't.
um, what were the factors that made you actually feel confident in that decision? And I'm asking this because if anybody else is ever in this situation, like it's working for you, it's working for me. People might want to hear like these are things you probably want to think about before making that decision.
Okay, so this is probably the wrong answer. So when I was early in the business, I am an always all in kind of person. I believe and I want everybody to succeed. And so and not to diminish what Amanda did, I've tried to bring in partnerships and bring in crew, and I've literally had people quit the job because I have offered them a partnership. Now, with that being said, it's way different with Amanda because again, when I was in the hospital, again, the doctors were sitting there going, "We don't know what to do. It doesn't look hopeful. You need to get your stuff in order." And Amanda would, the first day Amanda showed up, I'm like, "I don't know what to do." And she's like, "Don't worry about it." And, the fact that she somewhat figured out how to tie balloons, got in my big vans, made all the deliveries, took care of all the clients. Not, I didn't, because again, here I am in the hospital and they're going, "You're probably going to die." Last thing I'm caring is whether, Betty gets her balloons for her kid's third birthday. So for me, it was an easy concept because I've always, when you look at business, there's no single business that ever succeeds or is created based on one person. All successful companies, Microsoft, Apple, Disney, anyone that you look at, and again, wherever they're at financially now, you at some point, all of those were Coca-Cola, all these companies had more than just one person, you know. Now, companies have failed because of one person, but no one company is ever built based on one person. And so I always, and we still have that philosophy today, we've just changed our mantra slightly. Instead of, we now understand employees are employees. And you're always looking for that one person that's going to resonate, come above the grain and that's going to be exceptional. So we never take that off the table as far as additional partnerships.
Right.
But we also sit back and remember that sometimes, like early on, I think to some degree, I was hoping that I would find that support or that help, and when you try to impose that into an employee, you're always going to be disappointed because at the end of the day, an employee always just wants to be an employee. And I had somebody that said this to me one time and said, if you believe so much in the opportunity, which is what I'm always trying to sell, I was always, I sound like an Amway salesman. Everybody's like, what, I'm like, this is a great opportunity. And my buddy said, if it's such a great opportunity, then why don't you believe it and live it and then build a company that doesn't have to be sold on the opportunity? And that was one of those changing moments in my life where I stopped trying to sell the belief and started just building the company. And now that's probably one of the reasons why we have so many employees, because the infrastructure is different now. Where we are literally a 9 to 5 company. I mean, my whole production crew is now gone at this point, and the only people left is the office girls, and we had 12 deliveries today. And they're going to do that except for the weekends where we hit Saturday and Sunday. They're going to all work their 8 hours, but they're not going to come in till 5 or 6 in the morning, and then they'll all be gone by 3 or 4. And I find that a much easier path for us too. I didn't answer your question very well, but
Hey, it's all good. How many employees do you have right now?
I think it's 18.
Yeah, with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're fluttering right now. The biggest we've ever been, I think, was 26. And then we were staying well over before COVID, we were staying well over the 20 mark. We switched our marketing plan because of the economy. 2 years ago, I started seeing the economy shifting, or the potential of it. All that COVID cash was gonna dry up. And we're starting to see that. So we've been scaling and changing and just chasing after our ideal market. So we're floating now between 16 and 18 right now is where we're at. We're at 18 today, but I don't know, you always have somebody in training. But we're also seeing, people are drying up. We don't see as big of orders as we used to, on average, and then we don't see as many orders. But again, we're still pulling in a lot of numbers because we're focused on that ideal client.
Right on. So,
Who,
what's that?
who I said who's not affected by the economy.
Right. So since you have brought on a lot of employees, and I'm sure over time, how many do you think total over time? Are we talking over 200?
The employee stack is probably hundreds of employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. So
You
then,
every time you hire an employee, and this is the thing, I would hire employees before I would hire a partner. You grow so much through employees, you don't necessarily grow a lot through partnerships.
Having employees help you with your processes. Like, it's kind of like, it reminds me of that McDonald's, like, careful it's hot, because they got, somebody sued them because they spilt hot coffee in their lap, and you're like, really? But employees, every time we have a process, I'm like, what did we have to do to get this process? It was because an employee did something.
yeah.
But you also grow as a company with employees because your process is the other side of it, not just
Right.
negative, but the positive.
Right.
We have a huge recipe book. We have a lot of documentation in our office. All our office girls are hired with zero experience. They don't touch balloons. We're able to onboard them quickly and get them dialing in, taking orders, helping customers, serving our clientele in a very short, like within a couple months,
Right.
And that's all just learned through employees. Whereas with my partnership, going back to Amanda, my partnership with Amanda, there's a really good yin and yang. You can set the two of us near a job or near balloons. We won't talk the whole time, and it'll go from, everything will get accomplished. We don't have to talk. But there's a leaning on that too that also slows down the company growth. There's a lot of because there's just that level of pressure on both of us to always be incredible. There's a lot of I don't know what the word would be. There's a lot of wear and tear on your soul.
Yeah.
But you always got to be on at peak performance, right?
Yeah. Yeah. We all know that. I mean, how many times have we put in the core group of us have put in a Saturday, and you start early in the morning, you don't end until the wee hours of the late hours of the evening. You go home, you're totally wiped out on Sunday, which is a day then, and then the cycle starts all again. If you have a Sunday off, then you start the whole cycle again next week,
So what are the key factors? I just think this might be a good question for a lot of people, because I don't think most people have employees who aren't, my kids help me sometimes, or I have a friend who helps me. I think that's the majority of our industry. I would love for people to maybe take it to the next step, because I want to see them. I feel like maybe you're the same. I want to see people be able to retire and still make money without having to go to work anymore. And you're not going to do that if you're doing all the work.
Right.
So which means at some point somebody's going to consider bringing on employees. What are the things you look for the most?
I you want
Go
to
ahead, you can start.
I think that it can well, okay, on paper, somebody that's smiley, that smiles.
Yeah.
That personality trait, somebody that's positive, energetic, somebody
Yeah, I'll walk through the shop and if someone's not smiling, I'm like, why are you not smiling? Like that's kind of like a must. Like I don't do well with unhappy people.
right. And again, if you're an unhappy person and you like unhappy people around you, but again, our core belief is we're here to serve our clientele, and you ever have that employee show up, or that relative or that family member at a job site just ragging on something, and the client you've noticed is right around the corner? But you also want that, our job should be happy, because that's what we're doing. We're creating happy memories for everybody. So if somebody's not a happy person by nature, how can you make happy memories? How can you have a soul, a person? How can you serve if that's just not corely who you are? One of our core values, our number one core value is service. Our number two core value is our number seventh core value, which is our number two core value. We got the service on the top and the communication on the end, because those things at the beginning and the end are the most important things. So we look at those kind of conversations. Do they seem like they can, connect, talk, communicate? Because again, life happens. And if somebody can't talk, if they're intimidated, if they're a people pleaser, that'll just do whatever you tell them to do and then one day walk in or not show up.
Take direction well. We
Yeah.
look for people that, take direction well. I've had many, many of people in my lifetime working here, especially guys not respecting getting orders from a female. That has been a big problem over the years. It's like, I don't know what to tell you.
Bunch of sexist man.
So here's another question that I asked you this in class at Float, and I don't know if everybody in our group has been to Float, but when you raise somebody up from, and I don't know if you guys do the crew leader situation or if it's everybody's crew and they have their individual jobs and there's not
Yeah,
much
you have
overlap.
to have layers.
Right. Okay. So when you raise someone up to the next layer, so like when Amanda got raised up to the big time layer, what kind of problems did that create for coworkers? Or was everybody just like, oh yeah, you're amazing, we're so happy for you?
No, it did. It did create it. The problem when you have people that go from the same level and move them up is that they've created friends here. And so then all of a sudden now they're above them, that if there's a problem, they struggle with the people respecting them with the issues that are going on. I've seen that a lot with crew. Like, we had at one point, we had all leads and no crew, like because of transition of who we lost off. And so all of a sudden, all the people are the same level. And you're like talking to people like, okay, this person can't do this. And you have this like butting up because they're like, well, we're all equal, not realizing. And, so we had to move people around and stuff like that because you have to have the layers and stuff. Otherwise, they all become friends and you can't be a boss to a friend.
You can, but the thing in that, you have to mentor that person you level up, because again, they're not going to have the same level of respect. When Amanda asked for me to date, or for us to date, one of the first things I said is it's going to be very difficult, because everybody, I said, if this goes further, you're just going to be the girlfriend or the wife, and they, when people walk in, even though Amanda is first and foremost in everything I say or do, to try to separate that. But again, when people walk in, they automatically, just because I'm the male in the room, will gravitate towards me and just assume she married into it, not realizing she was a partner years before that was even a conversation. And you have that same level of respect when you move crew up. Other crew is not going to respect me because they're like, come on, buddy, we used to crack jokes about this. I had one employee that drank a whole lot, which I didn't know, and when we moved one person up, when he was coming in late, the other employee knew that he was, because it was drinking, which made it very hard now, because they built a scenario that they weren't telling us the other crew member was drinking. So when they were calling us going, he's not here, I'm like, well, have you tried to call him? It took them a while before, like, well, you may not know this, but he's a raging alcoholic. and we've all been covering for them. And I'm like, well, see, now you see the problem you now have, you know? So, you know, it's
Do you
different.
so like when I go in, which doesn't happen very much anymore because I don't really just go into the shop at all, but when you go into those kind of conversations where you're like, I have to put on my manager hat now and I'm really sad that you're making me do this because we are friends, but you're making me have this conversation. Like, do you have any kind of lead in to let them know this isn't a buddy to buddy talk, this is like a boss to employee talk?
I don't have a problem with it because I'm pretty authentic from the beginning, and I'm pretty. Again, communication is really important to me, and I've had conversations with employees long before they realize their own problems. I've had conversations with employees like, look, I'd love to move you up. I had one guy, and I was like, I'd love to move you up, and he's like, I don't really want the responsibility. I'm like, I would take the job, and then if we know you're going to quit one day, but take the job and get the title. And then after he quit, he struggled to find a job that really was going to pay him the same level of pay. And he'd come to me and he was like, I should have took the job, the title at least, because we knew he wasn't going to be forever here, and then you get that sometimes when you're honest with employees, you can see the burnout, you can see the life choices, when somebody moves an hour away, you can be honest and go, I'm going to just let you know it doesn't really work. I've done it long enough. Or when you get people that like we're interviewing right now for another office person, and there's a girl that's applying and she's in North Denton, and that's an hour on a good day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't typically find this works well. Or when you get employees that sit there and try to side hustle, I try to pay a really good wage. But again, people get themselves in pickles, they get themselves behind, they take on too much debt, and they think I can do this job and side hustle. And it's like it never works. I would rather try to give you more overtime and try to do it temporarily, but it's not going to work. And again, 27 years it never has, because the phrase I use is you can't serve two gods. When it comes down to it, that side hustle, they're comfortable here because it's the 40, but it's the side hustle that they'll sacrifice to first, because that's the thing that does that extra. They never remember this is the job that pays everything.
I also think one of the big turning points for me when it came to crew and dealing with issues and having to talk to them and stuff like that was when I wasn't in the middle doing the day to day every day with them. And I was more like, I came out to talk to them about whatever was going on or like help them here and there. That was a big change too, is that because we're not, as owners, we're not in the thick of it with them anymore. So there is a definite separation between us. Whereas if we're out there all day long, every day blowing balloons with them, and we look like crew and we look like employees because we're doing exactly what they're doing, then that's why I think it becomes harder to have those conversations with crew, because there's more respect, because they're like, they're owners, there's, you go to McDonald's, they never see the McDonald's owner or stuff like that. So I think forcing yourself to separate and not, putting in processes and things like that where they feel confident enough to do the jobs you need without you is a big step in all of that.
Big help, yeah.
Yeah. You had said something. So Dave, there's a handful of things that you've said over time that I kind of latch onto. You're a very cerebral person who thinks about things in the way that I appreciate. But early on, when I had met you, probably teaching, it might have even been your framing class at Float, maybe your first one, I believe. You had said something about employees are not your friends, and something to that effect. Basically, they're going to leave. You have to know an employee is not a forever person, and almost like you can't buy them into working better and doing better. You can't.
No. We all hope. I mean, you hope that opportunity they would latch on, because I feel one day, we'll be bigger, and I'd say that way as if we're not big now, but like,
I mean, we've been there where we've paid money to employees, like, okay, we're going to give you this money. Now you're going to do this and you're going to be this lead and da da da. And it's never worked. So we started doing it the other way. When you if you want more money, do this, then we'll evaluate And that's worked definitely, as a company, has worked way better for us. And success, because you see the ones that want it, and they deserve it because of the way that they work.
No, I think if you understand, the only person that's going to be at the end of the day of in any company's lifespan, it statistically speaking is going to be the person that built the company. You're going to be the one there when it started. You're going to be the one that's there when it ends.
In the 20 years that I've been doing it, I don't have a relationship with any single past employee.
No, you are nice.
I am nice. I'm very nice.
They still
to
show
people.
they still show
We
up.
actually had 2 this week show up randomly that haven't been here in like 7 years. We're like, what the heck?
Yeah, so for all you, so when you started, I'm assuming you started out of your house,
I
like
did.
free? How
The
long
back
were you-
bedroom, the back bedroom of my house, which was a 9 by 10 room.
Okay. So, did you have employees before you got to move out of your house? Like your first employees?
I moved out of the back bedroom. My house moved into my buddy's warehouse, which was a small stand. I had about 200 square feet there. And then I converted my garage, which was 400 square feet. When I had employees in my garage, I had them then. Because again, at the end of the day, we all only have 24 hours. And
He made it when he converted his garage, he put in a side access door, so nobody was ever going into his house, and the
Yeah.
door to the house was always locked.
I always
So
separated.
it was a separate basically.
It's a separate feeling. Definitely my business life and my personal life are separate, even though I'm very personal in my business.
Yeah.
But so I've always had, again, there's only 24 hours in a day. You can compress time by working more. So you can do 16, 18, 20-hour days. That compresses time. Or you can buy time, which comes from employees.
Right.
Now, again, even if back then I had homeschool kids I hired that would come and take everything apart at the end of the day. They would keep everything clean. They would blow balloons. Being that they were homeschooled, I could take them on jobs Monday through Friday kind of thing, or Monday through Thursday. That's how I bought time early on, was buying, cheap labor. And then as we progress, that's why I buy time now. I hire employees because it buys me roughly about 6.5 hours. You can say 8, but the reality of it is it doesn't work that.
Employees are never as effective as you are.
So, I mean, I could talk about employees all day. I do think it is important to know, and even though I heard you say that, I learned the lesson the hard way, and I didn't accept your wisdom at the time. And this is the reason why I found when I was an active worker and I needed help, people helped me. I didn't have them replace me. They just came along to help me get stuff done, which mostly meant cleaning up after me and helping me carry things. At that point in my business, I spent time in the vehicles with them. I actually had part of my house where people worked out of, and I would advise maybe not doing that, because I lost a good friend and a good employee all at the same time because he happened to be a thief, and I caught him on a hidden camera. That was a bad day. But you spend more time with your employees when they are your helpers, and you talk about life and everything. And it's really hard at that point to like, oh, you want to go get another job, but we're friends. Like there's that. It's hard. It's really hard.
You bond with them.
Yeah.
What's that?
You bond with them.
Yeah.
It's a bond. I mean, you spend more time with them than you will probably anybody else significantly in your life. Again.
Right. So for those of you who are thinking about bringing on employees, or when you do, I would say it's a good idea to maintain that boss-employee relationship at all costs.
It's easier to fix situations with a boss-employee relationship than it is with a friend and friend relationship. It's easier to fix a problem I have with an employee than a problem I have with my wife. I mean, there's complications when you get
and if employees leave, which they all do, there's not so much of that vested, like, oh my gosh, I poured my life into you and you're leaving me,
Now to say this, because there's always going to be someone that argues the opposite. I've had employees forever, or and this, that. There are people that are retiring from school districts that have been in that school district for 35 years. We see it on the news. We see that golden watch janitor, we see that employee that's been with McDonald's for 40 years that worked his way up. They all eventually leave. I mean, that's just how it is. Eventually, I will even leave. Hopefully, I put a good enough process in place that the company continues forward. I know, again, there's Amanda one day doesn't want to always show up.
No.
Okay, so you said you had a friend. You said a friend who used to do balloons. That's what got you interested. She was always happy. Is that what you
She
said?
always loved balloons. I mean, the way she
And
took
is
it on,
she
this was
still
back,
in the business?
say again,
Is she still in the business?
kind of.
Ish. She always tries. She
She,
comes by on occasion, like, oh, I really, y'all have done so great. I really should get back into this and doing this more, and I could make more money at
I,
this, but
I love her to death, and it's been a funny thing. It's been a 29-year relationship of her looking for the opportune time to do balloons, which is funny to me because she's breaking bread and having lunch with Dave, and I'm one of the largest ones in the industry, and I'm just like, when's that gonna happen?
Yeah.
You know?
So when you first started, it sounded like you were already computing what it would take to, to make it big time, more than your regular DIY stay at home person who's like just doing a job here or there because it's fun. And now
Right.
they realize they can make money. Like you were very intentional. Have you applied any of that before balloons? Like, did you have other endeavors before?
I've had companies before balloons. I've been self-employed most of my life in one fashion or another. I mean, when I was a small kid, I used to walk to school, and in California, the liquor stores used to sell candy and chips and all that. And when I was really, really young, I'd go into the liquor store, I'd buy a box of bubble gum, I'd buy a box of lollipops. I would buy whatever I could afford that day. I'd go to school and I would hustle those in class.
You
So
were the candy man? My
I was
son
I was definitely
did the same thing for the last 6 weeks of school. He would go to Sam's, which is like Costco.
right.
He said honey buns were the number one sellers. Like, and then uh, because of business stuff, he actually started telling his friends, "Look, I'm going to give you 10 honey buns. You need to pay me for 9 of them. You can keep
Right.
the extra." This is like he just started having other people sell, and he's like, "Dude, I wish I had just started this at the beginning of the year." Because he made like hundreds of dollars just from reselling. I'm like,
It,
you're gonna
it's a
cut down.
it's amazing what people will pay you for convenience, which is again the blessing of balloons. People will pay you a lot of money so they don't have to blow balloons.
Yeah. What other kind of businesses, if you don't mind? I tell you, I want to get a little personal. I'm just curious what other stuff you were into.
No, I had a design company, which I had for about 8 years, and this was well before computers really existed. I just happened to hit that one market right as personal computers were happening, are coming out and becoming more commonplace. Even to give you an idea of how expensive personal computers were back then, my first computer was $10,000. So that was my first computer. That it was that technology was brand new, but it changed and revolutionized the world at that point because I opened up basically an advertising company and I didn't know anything. My first job and how it kind of just by happenstance, my wife at the time, we were talking about doing some type of artistic illustrative kind of company. You know, those city maps you used to see in the hillbilly in the small towns that have all the local businesses. We'd seen somebody doing it. And we talked about the numbers. All our friends were artists, were all starving artists. And I said, well, let's do that. And so I was researching that idea and I was in a print company and I'd rent their computer for $12 an hour. And that's how I learned how to do computers. And I was making my first map to make it to go out to sell. And he introduced me to a lady that worked for Pfizer and she needed a little tiny postcard laid out and she paid me like 200 bucks. And I was just elated at that math. Like it was like a 4x8 postcard that she was going to hand out to doctors. I laid it out. She gave me 200 bucks and then I did that forever. And then I helped a buddy one season after that business failed because I was a huge introvert. I'm actually scared of people all the time now. But now I just realized it don't matter because I won't see them later. But back then I'd talk to people and I'd figure they're going to know I'm an idiot. Well, now you may think I'm an idiot, but I don't care because I won't see you later. Um, but so we started that company. We did that for 8 years. And then I got out of that business because I just couldn't figure out how to make it grow. I was hiring all these artists. Artists are the worst people to hire. They're flaky, they're inconsistent, they don't have a sense of time, money, anything. And so I sold insurance for 2 years, which is where I met the lady that introduced me to balloons. And then it's been basically history since then. But one of the driving factors for me, my wife at the time, was, we both agreed on doing balloons. And she said, now, if this doesn't work, because we had the baby, she's like, you're going to have to get a real job. That motivates you because I hate real jobs. I can't, I hated when I loved helping people when I sold insurance because two things. One, it taught me to talk, taught me to engage with people and ask questions and be the person you see when I'm on stage. But I hated going to the office. I hated those mandatory meetings. I hated being successful at what I did, but every single week somebody telling me I needed to do better. I mean, I still feel I need to do better every day, but at least I don't need somebody else to tell it to me. So
Right.
that's my short journey. And we told you Amanda's short journey.
Yeah. Right on.
Hers is even
Well,
shorter.
Yeah, I
so
was
you,
first for like a wee bit of time and then on balloons.
what did you say you did for a little bit
I
of time?
worked for a florist for like, I don't know, a year before I worked for him. But before then, I've always done stuff to earn money, like babysitting, mowing yards, help people out. Yeah.
Right on. So, artistic, are you an artistic person outside of balloons? Like, do you draw? Do you have, like, did you growing up, either one of you?
No,
No,
I can't even draw stick people.
no.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right. Interesting.
That's
Okay.
what I love about balloons. I mean, you look at the stuff we're able to create, and I don't have any talent outside of balloons, but I can make balloons be whatever I want it to be. And if you look at the style of things we do, there's a pattern to it. And all we're doing is identifying the patterns. Again, the column sculpting we taught at Float, it's just a pattern. The balloons can only go so big or so small. So once you figure out proportions, you can make a clown, you can make an elephant, you can make whatever. You just have to find the pattern.
Okay, cool. I was just wondering because you were like design and advertising,
It's
those are
it's
kind of creative,
that
but
that's just typesetting. That is not even like someone gives you information, you just lay that stuff out. There's not even in thinking.
okay, so family wise, how many children do you have in your home?
We have two children in our home. We have Gracie and Ryan. Ryan's 4, Gracie's 14 months.
No.
Oh,
3.5 months, not 14 months.
what? 3.5 months?
Time goes by pretty quick, but that's like a year
It
difference.
seems
Maybe
it's hard
14 weeks.
it's hard to tell them apart. All she does is cry,
Whatever, she does not.
cries and poops.
Okay, and then you said you have at least another son. How many
I have,
more kids do you have?
my oldest son's 27, and he lives with his mom, but works for us. They both actually. My ex-wife works for us.
Okay,
They
that was
both
my
work
next,
for us.
is if any of your family works for you or did at a time.
Almost
We've
every.
employed almost all of my family at one point or another. My sister and my brother. My mom still does. She does like customer relations for us. She does like email reminders, thank you notes, stuff like that. And then my sister-in-law, our sister-in-law, works for us, and then um
I don't
and
think
then
you can be.
ex-wife and
Yeah, I don't
son.
think you can own a business and not hire family.
And then our 4-year-old thinks he works for us. He pretends to take orders and answer the phone and
He's just trying to make money for Walmart.
yeah.
So, have you had to fire any of them?
I've only fired one person in 27 years, and that was
No,
and
that was an employee.
that was a employee. I've only fired one person, and I only fired. The only reason I fired her is because I've done this long enough to know she was never going to dial in like we needed her to. And then when I let her go, I told her, I said, look, I really want you to succeed. This was 6 months ago. It was November. And so I said, I think the economy is going to shift. I respect you enough. I want you to be able to move into another position before the economy shifts and make as much money as possible. And since I fired her, you can see this every day. Like, what's the going paying rate? You watch Walmart, I mean, not Walmart, you watch McDonald's go from $18, $19 an hour, and now they're down to like 13, 12, 13, you know? And so, I mean, out of respect of not wanting her to, because if I would have waited till now, her offers of employment would be less. And I didn't want to do that to her, you know?
Right.
But we went through 2 rounds of training and 2 rounds of education, and there just wasn't
Clicking.
clicking, you know, and I just didn't want to waste 6 more months.
Yeah.
Right on. So we have like 19 minutes left, 18. We'll go through. I could talk to you guys all day, but I want to leave room for anybody else who might have questions. And then if they don't, then we'll just keep yapping. But I have 20.
Okay.
I think since there's 2 of you, I don't know. I don't know if
Let Amanda answer them all since she made me answer all the questions at the
Yeah,
red card.
whatever. I was so tired by the time we got to the red carpet. I was just like, huh? You want me to think
Yeah.
now? All right.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the time. You guys can even either both answer or decide who wants to answer if it matters. Whatever. All right.
Yeah,
What is your favorite?
let me do this. Let me do this really fast. Melissa asked the question, what titles do you have within your organization? Amanda answered those very nicely. Crew leads, assistant manager, manager, owner. But that is also on top of the fact that we've also defined different positions. We have office, production, pre-production, delivery. So we have other departments, and within those departments, those all structure up too, except for owner and manager.
Yep.
So defining our company was a huge, even though when we were doing it, it wasn't as big as it is now. Defining the roles and the people, so it made it easier to identify what we were needing to do when we talk about separating yourself from working every day with your crew. But it also helped us identify where we needed more support. I'm terrible with bookkeeping. So office is, you don't even, yeah, you don't have office. Office is one of the bigger departments for us because it definitely makes sure that, you know, everything runs, you know, answering our phones every day is important.
Yeah. Well, and we probably will have time. There might be some questions, but usually either people are just scared to ask stuff or I've asked the questions that maybe they did. But I would love to spend a little bit of time talking about, because to me, there's a couple of things that are the scariest time in my business I've ever had. The first
Mhm.
one was moving out of my house. Basically, anything that took me from freedom to obligation and responsibility was a scary jump. So the responsibility of having a 3-year lease on my, like that I had to rent a building now, it was a shift in how I had to think about business. When I bring somebody on as an employee, I take that on as a personal responsibility that God brought them into my life for me to help them with a job that needs to work for them. And
Right.
I mean, that's what I do personally. So those are scary. So I imagine for other people who are thinking about employees too, there's a lot we could chat about on that path.
Yeah, I definitely
Which
think you can talk about employees all day, and the trick of it is everybody has to find what fits them. I would say in all my years of employees, my opinion is if I have a failed employee, I always look at what I failed at,
right.
you know, because
That's one of the
I don't,
things time ago that stuck with me. And it's made me a better manager because I realized the reason that you failed was because I didn't manage you properly.
right,
Otherwise, we would have found out that you shouldn't have worked for me a long time ago.
right.
So,
Yeah, I think when you reflect on you more than outside forces, even when it comes to sales, when people sit there and say, no one's buying balloons, that's not necessarily true. We're just not finding where to go service or who to find ideally, you know.
sure. Okay. We will get to these questions. This 20 questions shouldn't really take very long. And
Okay.
then we'll get to these questions and we'll be free to talk about whatever you guys want to, whatever anybody else does. Favorite music style.
I've always listened to Christian music. I don't know.
I like anything you can dance to.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite kind of food.
Uh, Good old Southern cooking.
Home food,
All
steak,
right.
Mexican.
Yeah, we have a lot of tacos and steak at home.
Right on. Favorite dessert?
Cheesecake and chocolate cake. Chocolate
All right.
cookies. Chocolate cookies.
Do you guys, this is a two-part. If you listen to, well, what's your favorite podcast? And if you don't listen to one, then that's an easy answer.
I listen to books. I don't listen to podcasts.
Okay.
I like inspirational business books. I listen to a lot of those that like help me
See,
want
and
to
the
do
questions it might
more things.
Okay, that's going to be a question in a little bit. Favorite movie or type of movie, if you don't have a specific favorite.
I like Little Mermaid,
Oh,
my favorite movie.
Little-
I'm a big Disney fan. We went to
okay.
Disney 2 times last year.
So you're nodding. Does that mean it's also your favorite, Dave, or do you have different tastes?
Whatever my wife
No,
likes,
his
I love
favorite
it.
movie is Blade Runner, right?
Yeah, the
I mean,
original, the original theatrical release of Blade Runner was my favorite
Okay.
movie of all time. But again, that one's been re-released so many times, and I get so excited. I'm like, oh, and then
Yeah,
they've edited
we're
it
trying
out.
to find it, and I'm like, I think I found it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not the one.
Everybody thought I was crazy. I'm like, no, through the movie, Harrison Ford has dialogue, and that release makes that movie so much better. But I love that movie. I love any kind of movie that you can escape in. I mean, a good drama's great, a good thriller's okay, but horror, it's got to really be good. But anything that you can sit down in a theater for 2 hours or less, I don't need three, that you can escape because life has enough drama in it. I don't need to, I pay to get away.
Right, right. All right. Growing up, what was your favorite toy?
Ooh.
What did you play with?
I wasn't very rich, so most of my
The
memories
hoop and
growing
stick
up is
for Dave.
well, no, I think again, digging the holes in the backyard and playing with my little green army man. That's one of the biggest memories I remember, blowing them up with rocks and stuff like that. Models, I did that a lot.
Yeah, I played outside a lot as a kid. It was back in the days where you could go outside and be gone till it got dark and then come home.
You played
Yeah.
sports too.
I did play sports. I played softball and baseball for 10 years.
So you were outside, not really, you didn't have inside toys very much? You didn't have like
I mean, I
Barbie?
did. I guess I had I mean, I had American Girl dolls.
Shoes.
Oh, which do you remember which one, or was
I
it
had the
just like a
Kirsten one, the
okay.
blonde
I'm
Kirsten.
sad that I know to ask that question. We had an American Girl vacation one time when I met my wife. She had two little girls. They were big into it. They already had this New York trip planned. They're like, you can come, but it's all about American Girl. So yeah. Okay. So growing up, what did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you think you're going to be when you grew up?
Mm. I think early on, I thought I would do something like in accounting and stuff like that. That's where I started to go to school for. And then I got into doing the whole business side, and I just loved it. So I was like, yeah, forget that. Let's pay somebody to do the accounting stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
How about you, Dave?
Uh,
You couldn't have been a kid thinking you were going to be a balloon.
no, nobody is. I thought I was gonna when I was really young, truck driver.
Okay, right on.
And you got to travel around. I thought that was cool.
Right on. Extracurricular activities you did at school. Name one of them at least.
I did softball. I tried soccer. I hated it because I had to run too much.
Right. What position did you play in softball?
Catcher.
Okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I
Not
played the violin.
played the violin.
Can you still play?
I don't know. I haven't touched one in a while. Probably
All
some
right.
degree. I haven't played touch one in a while.
How long did you play it for?
6 years.
Wow. All right. Interesting. Inspirational book recommendation.
Oh.
What book would you recommend?
Oh, the greatest. Me personally, I've always been a big Tony Robbins fan. Keith Cunningham, I like his stuff. But I think I pretty much, I think anything that really just supports the idea that you can achieve anything. you know. But I like Tony Robbins, I like the way he talks. I like the amount of content he produces. Keith Cunningham, I just like his belief system, about numbers.
The podcast book I'm listening to right now is called The Greatness Guide by Robin Sharma. I like it because this one's got 101 lessons for making what's good at work and life even better. And what I really like about this one is that I can get in the car, listen to a couple. They're only like 1 to 5 minutes, these little blurbs. And when I get back in the car, even if it's days later and I listen again, I don't have to okay, where was I in the story? And they give little tidbits.
I like writing these down because I like to go listen to them. I listen to books and podcasts.
The Greatness Guide is a good one.
They have 2 of them. I'm on the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari is a good one.
Yeah.
All right. Organic or classic?
Classic.
Whichever one pays.
Organic pays a lot, but I prefer classic.
If you couldn't do balloons anymore, what would you do? Or if you could live a different life, what would you do for a job or career or whatever?
I think whatever it is, I would want to help people.
Yeah.
Regardless of what we did, whether it was going to the homeless shelter and serving or whatever. I just like putting smiles on people's faces and helping people.
Dave's a little carny. I would probably, I could probably go anywhere from living in a cabin in the mountains doing, in the middle of nowhere to driving around and opening up a circus.
Okay. Well, that's a perfect segue to the next question. Do you have a weird talent outside of balloon decorations?
A weird talent?
A weird talent.
Well, if I did, I wouldn't admit it.
I took stained glass classes in high school. I could probably still do that. Make stained glass. I know how to do it, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yours was not weird. Not that it's weird, but I would have never guessed you were a violinist, Mr. Dave. It's not weird. It's just an interesting.
I used to have hair.
Okay. When did you start shaving it and then just kept it that way? Or
I walked into work one day and he was completely bald. I don't even remember how many years ago. Years and years ago. I was like,
so he went from hair to no hair.
Yes.
I should have led with that question. We could talk about that one for a while. And then he just never went back, huh?
Never went back.
It's easy, so easy. I feel personally.
And again, a lot of people may not know that I shave my head all the time, and I always wear red shirts. And again, I'm really successful, and I don't say that. I just say that for perspective. There's nothing in life I don't want that I don't have, but I still wear red shirts. I still shave my head because at one time I was so poor and so broke, and there was even a period of my time in the balloon business where I was homeless. I still was doing my company, but I was surfing sofas, stuff like that. And I realized, and it's not the main reason I shaved my head, but I realized if I always wore red, then nobody could know whether my shirt was the one from yesterday or did I work really hard today. And I always shaved my head because you couldn't tell if I had or had not a shower. It sounds quirky, but again, it's those traits that, again, when I tell people there's probably not an aspect of this business I haven't experienced. It hasn't always been rainbows and sunshine. It hasn't always been a perfect journey. And when I say that I struggled, and I understand when I say you can make it in this business, I don't say that lippidly because I just want everybody to have. I know you can make a living with this business, but I also know you can follow the wrong journey, the wrong people, the wrong philosophies, and be miserable in this business, or success is going to be elusive, because I've been that way. It didn't. Again, I started with $200 in the bank, and it's a great story to say I started with 200 in the bank and now I make millions every year. But I think it's more impressive when you sit there and you say I started with 200. I struggled a lot. I mean, I went through a marriage and the tragedy and the learning lessons of that balance and stuff like that. And again, my ex-wife still works for us, so it wasn't even the most horrific divorce. It was just we were going down different paths. But on the flip side, I've been to the point where I couldn't pay bills. I couldn't cover rent. I couldn't, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you're trying to do whatever it is to get a job. I know that desperation of going, oh my God, yes, $200, I'll do it. And then I remember the days where I sat there and had to say, I got to stop chasing just anything and start serving. I got to find the client that fits what I do, because customers will lie to you all day long. They'll show up in a Mercedes and say, my budget's $200. And you'll be like, oh, like, they're sitting there with their $10 Starbucks and their, 3,000 carat diamond ring going, I got $50. And me being desperate enough going, oh, okay, thanks. And then you realize at the end of the day, you did the job and you lost 200.
Okay, favorite theme, like balloon decor theme.
I like Under the Sea. It's my favorite one.
Back to the Little Mermaid. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, it falls into the
Yeah.
movie.
I don't think I have I like one that I have variety. I mean, Under the Sea is a great one. There's so much variety of things we can do as an industry. I love superheroes, even though that's becoming less unpopular. The things I don't like, or like I could probably pick more that I don't like tennis. Bowling is one that's a struggle. You get those themes where you're just going, when customers, I decorated, what was it? I decorated a gentleman's club one time and their theme was South Park.
Yeah.
Like,
When they give you those weird things that, are almost
Yeah.
impossible to match balloons,
Yeah.
like it's a
Okay, if you
sophisticated Halloween party for adults. What you got? I got balloons.
if you could meet one person of all time ever, past or present.
Ooh, I don't know.
One person, all time past.
Well, when I was young, I wanted to meet Yvonne Rodriguez, the catcher, forever. And then I was at spring training and I got his autograph on my catcher mitt. So I was set.
I honestly, the lack of this is not the greatest answer, but it's probably the one that I think and again, depending on where you stand religiously and stuff like that, I would want to meet Jesus Christ. I got questions.
Yeah.
I got,
Yep.
if you can pick, that's the one I'm going with.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Which again,
Okay.
theory, I should be able to talk to. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. If you
Yeah.
could have one superpower.
What did he say?
One superpower.
One superpower.
Reading my wife's brain. No, maybe not.
I think being able to duplicate myself.
Oh,
That's a good one. Yeah.
employee problem solved.
Exactly.
No, because then I can read all of their brains.
Yep. Okay, this is one of my favorite questions. If you could know the day that you were going to die, would you want to know?
I've heard this one. Yes.
Okay.
Because again, if you know the day you're going to die, then you can live this life full. You can live
Right.
and you can understand the magnitude of every moment. The tragedy of life is more times than not, people live their lives believing they got more time and then regret the opportunities they passed off, the love they could share, the times they could spend. So knowing that, would
Yeah.
you fail at business if you knew how long you had?
Right.
It would be a motivator to make sure to plan and get it all.
Unless I lived to
taken care of.
105.
Yes, we have a little lady that called us. We've been doing her birthday. We did her 85th and her 90th, and she just called us yesterday and placed an order. 95 years old, placed an order for her the balloons for her party.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you could spend one day anywhere, where would you go?
Oh, the beach.
Beach.
All right. What is your spirit animal, if you had one?
I don't think we're making that 2-minute mark, are we?
No. Oh no. This is definitely. There's two of you. These have been conversations, not rapid fire questions. I know what y'all's is right. Both of your spirit animals is a cat. Yeah.
Yeah, probably cat.
Probably.
Cat.
That fits us
Okay.
pretty typically. You know, cats are very loving, but at the same time not.
Yeah, right. Um, okay, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't be scared, don't hold back.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, learning life and stuff like that, making decisions and understanding that you can make different ones later or change them, but not making a decision in life slows your life down. Like you live in this limbo, and I was just always stressed all the time and stuff like that. When I started like being more confident, like, okay, I don't know all the answers because I would be like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I live my life like this limbo. But when I started making decisions like, yes, okay, let's do this. And if it doesn't work, we can make a different decision or whatever. When I started doing that, it definitely made my
Yeah.
life better.
That reminds me of the biggest piece of advice I've got from you, Dave. I know we're going over just a few minutes. Hopefully that's okay.
That's fine.
I'll try.
I have a 4 o'clock. That's the only thing I gotta do.
Okay. So you said in class again, long time ago, like you don't really know all the answers. You might know the destination where you want to go and have no idea how to get there. You
Right.
said, but you just go as far as you can today. And at the end of the day, your perspective is different because you're farther down a path.
Right.
Whether it's the right path or the wrong path, you still maybe don't know, but at least you're looking at something different than when you were back at the beginning.
Yes.
That goes
It's the
along with
peak,
what
it's the
Amanda
peak
just
and
said.
valley mindset, you know. If you're standing in front of the mountains and you don't know where to go, then climb the first mountain. You'll see further past,
Yeah.
you know. And most
Take
people
it
will
down.
not climb any mountain because they're like, which mountain? You know.
Yeah, I don't want to climb the wrong one or whatever. But that's what Amanda just said, is just do something.
Yeah.
Right.
And you could probably back out of most things either way
Most
or
most people most people never succeed, never learn from success. We all learn from failure. So one of the reasons we're successful is because we made a lot of mistakes. We make a lot of mistakes, and every time we make a mistake, we grow from it. One of the best things Amanda ever said to me was, "I will follow you, regardless if it's right or wrong, because I know we can fix it."
it's
Mhm.
pretty good. All right, last question, maybe the most important one. Which Harry Potter house would you be sorted into?
Slytherin.
I
Were you
guess
answering for Amanda or was that for you?
uh I'm Gryffindor, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say Gryffindor for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, right on. All right. Well, that's the end of the 20 questions.
And
So
that was done in just under 20 minutes at 18 minutes and 21 seconds.
So we
So,
have the longest record of questions.
yeah,
Right.
no, a
part of that's
record is a
fun.
record. So it's
Yeah.
great. So thank you so
Uh,
very much. I think that it's been awesome. Jonathan, if you want to finish up anything with the Mahoney's, that's be awesome. I know we do have some more questions. I do want to run over really quickly some of the updates on the guild for this month too.
Yeah, let's just make sure we can cut them loose, so we're not taking up too much more of their
I
time.
would like to answer MK Events question about how do you all work well together as a married couple? Um, for me, the biggest thing in the beginning, I did struggle with this because I'm like, well, I'm a partner, my opinions matter, and so we clash heads a lot at the beginning because I was young, I didn't know. I was like, I have this partnership, what I say should mean something. And a big turning point for me was to realize that I'm important and I'm valued, but have a leader and not a follower, but a supporter. So you're not just like, oh, well, it's not necessarily a partnership when you have a leader and a follower, but you have a supporter and a leader. So I think that was the biggest thing in our relationship. And Dave is definitely the visionary in our company. So I have learned that to trust him and what he sees. And that's where I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen, but let's go and I'll support you and do whatever I can to help make that happen. So that's been the biggest thing with our relationship is understanding that you can't both be leaders, but you can both come to the table and have ideas and stuff. But ultimately there's going to be one person that's going to make some of the harder you know, pull some of the harder triggers and things like that. And so,
And a good leader is always going to take all counsel.
yeah.
You know, a leader that doesn't take any counsel is not going to succeed. So we talk a lot.
Yeah.
You know, but again, the business is kind of like a war. You do need a general, and you need a couple good lieutenants, but hopefully you have at least one good lieutenant that's going to be there to help rally the troops and make sure we're going the right direction and see things that I don't see. Again, Amanda has a much different perspective about things, or has a different perspective than I do. That's one blessing of communication, talking to your crew, talking to your team, talking to your spouse, talking to your friends, mentoring. People see stuff differently than I see it sometimes. And that's big for me to put that in and then bring some fresh thoughts into it, because we do all get in our own vacuums.
Yeah, that's one thing when it comes to our employees too. When I don't know how many of you were in our masterclass, we briefly talked about empowerment. Is that when there's a problem, instead of as an owner, like going, okay, here's the new process, follow it, going to them, going, okay, this is the problem that we had. What are some solutions that y'all can help come up with? And if they come up with the solution of a process of a way to keep something from happening again, they have a tendency, A, to remember it, and B, they don't look at it as another rule they have to follow.
And it gives them some level of ownership too, because they're
Yeah,
creating part of
exactly.
the company. Yeah.
So real quick, I want to show you guys where to find the Mahoney stuff. If you log in to your Balloon Guild, we've actually changed the homepage. That's one of the announcements for this week as well. And so if you click on recipes, you'll see this nice little recipe thing, but also on the homepage, we've got it up top as well. You can still click on search and get everything to pop up the same way it did before. But now you can also go to guest designers, and this will give us a number of guest designers. And if you go to balloons every day, or if you go down to March 2024, you can click on that as well. And that'll take you to all of the recipes that we have uploaded currently from the Mahoneys. And you'll see those nice and easy. Right now, we do not have their SOPs pulling up the same way, but they did also provide an SOP for us. You can find that by clicking on SOP. And then in this case, scrolling down to the bottom where we have their sizing grid and also the balloon overlay technique here as well. So all kinds of great new stuff. We also did get some work on the releases. Our February was not showing up. This should automatically show up on the 2nd of the month, the month prior. So March is now the current month. So it shows February. In this case, it shows a lot of stuff from Chris Adamo and the different things that were added here. And then you can also see January, December, and the months before to see what was there. But that's what we've been working on there. And then actually, Mr. Gerber has been working on quite a few things as well that I'm sure he will be very excited to share with. So I'm going to stop my share and let you guys hear from him on some of that.
Sure. David, Amanda, thank you so much for your time. This is going to be recorded. I appreciate you guys being a part of the Balloon Guild, believing in us and helping us out. And like I said, you guys have provided way more than we even asked for. And I'm looking forward to putting that on for everybody too. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for answering all my weird questions. And you guys can.
Hopefully it was helpful. Thank you for asking us to be a part of it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a good one. You can hang out with us if you want, but I don't want you to feel obligated to.
Get a book.
Yeah.
Good to see all of y'all. I have things to do. We'll see y'all
All
later.
right. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. You guys enjoy. And thank you for being a part of our March guest designers as well.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.